You ever have one of those moments where you can literally feel your life splintering into a million pieces? Like the air itself conspires to knock you off your feet? For me, it happened as I glanced at her phone, innocently left charging on the kitchen counter. It buzzed, lighting up with a name I didn't recognize, Ethan. Normally, I wouldn't snoop, but that night, my gut whispered, check it. So I did. I wasn't prepared. The message read, last night was unforgettable. Can't stop thinking about you. Same time next week? The world slowed. My heart pounded in my ears as I scrolled up. Pieces of a sordid conversation unfolded before me. Things she'd done, promises of more to come. Words I never thought I'd see associated with my wife, Lisa, the woman I thought I knew inside and out after 7 years of marriage. I don't know how long I stood there, gripping the phone like it might shatter under my fingers. When I finally set it down, my hands were shaking. Lisa walked into the room, her smile lighting up as she saw me. Hey, babe, she chirped, moving to kiss my cheek. I turned my head away. She froze mid-step, her eyes narrowing. What's wrong? You tell me, I said, my voice low and steady, eerily calm, considering the storm brewing inside me. She hesitated, her smile faltering. What do you mean? Who's Ethan? Her reaction was instant, a sharp intake of breath, eyes darting to her phone on the counter. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. I read the messages, Lisa, I said, each word clipped and deliberate. All of them. She paled, her eyes widening in horror. No, wait, it's not. Let me explain. Explain? I laughed bitterly, a sound that felt foreign coming from my mouth. You think there's an explanation that makes this okay? Tears filled her eyes, and she reached for me, but I stepped back. Please, Chris, she begged. It was a mistake, just one stupid night. It didn't mean anything. I felt something inside me snap, a tether I hadn't even realized was holding me together. A mistake? I echoed. Didn't mean anything? That's your defense? After all we've been through? Chris, I love you, she cried, desperation seeping into her voice. You don't get to say that, I snapped. Not anymore. Her tears fell freely now, and I almost felt a flicker of pity. But the image of those messages, the vivid descriptions of her betrayal, crushed any lingering empathy I might have had. I need some air, I muttered, grabbing my jacket and keys. Please don't go, she whispered, her voice breaking. We can fix this. I turned to look at her one last time, memorizing the face of the woman who had shattered my heart. You already broke it, Lisa, and you don't get to decide how this ends. As I stepped out into the cold night air, one thought played on repeat in my mind. This isn't over. And it wouldn't be. Not until I had my revenge. The drive was a blur. I didn't have a destination in mind, only an overwhelming need to escape. My knuckles turned white as I gripped the steering wheel, navigating aimlessly through the quiet streets of our suburban neighborhood. How had it come to this? I'd given Lisa everything, my loyalty, my love, my life. Yet, in one reckless moment, she'd thrown it all away. I parked in a dark, empty lot and stared out at the night sky. The chill of the car seeped into my bones, but I didn't care. 1,000 thoughts swirled in my mind, questions, doubts, and a smoldering fury that refused to be extinguished. Then, clarity hit me like a jolt of electricity. If Lisa thought I'd just roll over and forgive her, she didn't know me at all. No. This wouldn't end with apologies and promises of change. It wouldn't end with me being the fool. I was going to make her regret every decision that led to this moment. The next morning, I played my part perfectly. When I walked back into the house, Lisa was sitting on the couch, her tear-streaked face pale and puffy from a night of crying. She looked up as I entered, her expression a mix of hope and fear. Chris, she began, her voice trembling. I held up a hand to silence her. I've been thinking, I said, my tone carefully measured. Her eyes widened, and she nodded eagerly, desperate for any sign that I might be willing to forgive. I'll give you one chance to prove yourself, I continued. But you have to be honest with me. No more lies. If I even suspect you're holding back, I trailed off, letting the weight of my words hang in the air. I will, she said quickly, her voice breaking. I'll tell you everything. Just please, don't leave me. I clenched my jaw to suppress the disgust bubbling inside me. Start from the beginning, I demanded. How did it happen? She hesitated, her gaze dropping to the floor. It was a mistake, she said softly. Ethan, he's a coworker. We went out for drinks after work, and one thing led to another. I didn't mean for it to happen, Chris. I swear. I studied her, searching for any signs of deceit. She looked genuinely remorseful, but the image of that text message burned in my mind, reminding me of her betrayal. Did it only happen once? I pressed. Yes, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Liar. I nodded, feigning acceptance. Okay, we'll see if you're worth forgiving. While Lisa spent the day nervously doting on me, I was busy working in the background. I called a friend of mine, Matt, who ran a private investigation firm. Matt, I need a favor, I said, keeping my voice low. Chris? What's going on? It's personal, I replied. I think Lisa's hiding more than she's telling me. Can you help me find out the truth? There was a pause, then a sigh. Yeah, I've got you. Send me her details and I'll get started. Thanks, Matt, I said, relief washing over me. Next, I drafted a plan. Lisa thought she was getting another chance, but all I was doing was biding my time, gathering evidence, and plotting my next move. That evening, I took her out to dinner, a gesture that made her eyes light up with hope. She clung to me, laughing at my jokes and sneaking glances like she was trying to memorize my face. Inside, I seethed. Are you sure you're okay? She asked cautiously as we drove home. I'm trying, I said, forcing a small smile. For us. Her hand found mine, squeezing tightly. Thank you, Chris. I promise I'll make this right. The rest of the week was a delicate dance. I played the role of the forgiving husband, all the while tracking her movements and monitoring her calls. Matt came through with photos, text logs, and damning evidence that shattered any doubt I might have had. It wasn't just Ethan. There was another man, someone she'd been meeting for months. Romantic dinners, late-night rendezvous, and an entire web of lies so intricately spun I almost marveled at her audacity. By the time Matt was done, I had a folder filled with enough evidence to obliterate any defense she might try to muster. The night before I put my plan into motion, Lisa climbed into bed beside me, wrapping her arms around my waist. I love you, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Thank you for giving me another chance. I didn't respond. I couldn't, because tomorrow, her perfect little world would come crashing down. The morning of my reckoning arrived with a strange sense of calm. Lisa moved around the house with cautious optimism, making breakfast and humming softly. She looked so normal, so unbothered. The sight of her cheerfulness stoked the fire in my chest. If she only knew. I had spent the entire night perfecting my plan. It wasn't enough to confront her and walk away. I wanted to dismantle the fantasy world she built around her lies. She thought she had me fooled, but by the end of the day, she would know the true meaning of betrayal. It began with the car. Lisa had taken it upon herself to use our vehicle for her little escapades. Thanks to Matt's surveillance, I knew exactly where she'd driven, who she'd met, and when. She thought nothing of it, of the shared miles, the places we'd visited as a couple that she'd now defiled with her deceit. That morning, I borrowed her keys under the guise of running an errand. Instead, I drove straight to a dealership and traded in the car for a modest cash payout. I made sure to scrub our account details from the system so she couldn't trace a thing. Is this a divorce situation? The salesman asked, giving me a sympathetic look. Something like that, I said, signing the last piece of paperwork. With the money safely deposited into an account she didn't know existed, I caught a ride home in an Uber, feeling the first slivers of satisfaction. Next, I visited our storage unit. We'd rented it years ago to store some old furniture and sentimental items, but Lisa had started using it for her hobbies and, as I now knew, for other purposes. With a crowbar in hand, I cracked open the locked trunk she kept there. What I found made my stomach churn. Inside were photo albums, gifts, and even a secret stash of letters, messages she'd exchanged with her other lovers. Some were sweet, others explicit, and all of them proof of just how far her infidelity had gone. I didn't cry. Not anymore. Instead, I gathered everything into a box and took it straight to Matt's office, where he assured me it would be kept safe for the inevitable fallout. By mid-afternoon, it was time to set the final pieces in motion. I scheduled a meeting with my lawyer, Jane, who had been prepping divorce papers and a strategic custody case for weeks. "You're sure you want to do this today?" she asked, sliding the papers across the desk. "Absolutely," I said without hesitation. Jane nodded. "With the evidence you've provided, this is as airtight as it gets. Custody should swing in your favor, and her financial claims will be limited." "Good," I said. "Make sure the papers are served at the house this evening." She raised an eyebrow. "While you're there." "While she's there," I corrected. I wanted her to feel the weight of it. When I arrived home, Lisa greeted me with a nervous smile. She was dressed casually, her hair tied back, looking every bit the devoted wife. "Hey, babe," she said, stepping forward to kiss me. I turned my head, dodging her lips. "Not now," I muttered, brushing past her into the living room. Her face fell, but she didn't press. Instead, she followed me cautiously, sitting on the edge of the couch. "I was thinking we could have dinner at that Italian place you love," she offered, trying to sound cheerful. "I'm not hungry," I replied, keeping my tone curt. The silence stretched between us, thick with tension. She fiddled with her wedding ring, a nervous habit I'd picked up on years ago. "Chris, is something wrong?" she asked finally, her voice trembling. Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Lisa stood to answer it, but I stopped her. "Sit down," I commanded. Her eyes widened in confusion. "What? Why?" "Just sit," I said, my voice firm. I crossed the room and opened the door to find a courier holding an envelope. "Chris Evans?" he asked. I nodded, taking the envelope and tipping him before closing the door. Lisa looked on, her confusion giving way to panic as I walked back toward her with the envelope in hand. "What's going on?" she whispered. I tossed the envelope onto the coffee table in front of her. "Open it," I said. Her hands shook as she reached for it, tearing open the seal. As she read the first line, her face drained of color. "Divorce?" she choked out, her voice barely audible. I leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "I know everything, Lisa. Every lie, every betrayal. You didn't just cheat on me. You destroyed everything we built together." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Chris, please, I can explain." "No," I interrupted, my voice ice cold. "I'm done listening to you. This is your consequence." As her sobs filled the room, I stood and walked toward the door, pausing only to deliver the final blow. "Oh, and Lisa? You might want to check the garage." Without another word, I left, my heart pounding with both anger and triumph. She thought she could hide her sins forever. But now, the walls of her deceit were crumbling, and I wasn't done yet. I drove aimlessly after leaving the house, savoring the image of Lisa's tear-streaked face burned into my mind. A part of me felt vindicated. The rest of me, hollow. This wasn't over. Not yet. My phone buzzed, jolting me from my thoughts. It was Matt. "Hey, got a moment?" he asked. "Yeah," I replied, pulling into an empty parking lot. "What's up?" "Something came up during my surveillance," Matt said, his voice low and serious. "You're going to want to hear this." "What is it?" I asked, my pulse quickening. "Ethan isn't just some random coworker," Matt began. "He's been in your life longer than you think." I frowned. "What are you talking about?" Matt hesitated. "You remember that college roommate you lost touch with? The one you always said was like a brother to you?" My chest tightened. "You're telling me Ethan is—" "His real name is Evan," Matt interrupted. "Evan Daniels." The air seemed to leave my lungs. Evan and I had been inseparable in college until he disappeared without a word one summer. No calls, no emails, just gone. I'd assumed he moved on, like so many do after graduation. And now I trailed off, struggling to find the words. "Sleeping with your wife," Matt finished grimly. The revelation hit me like a truck. My wife's betrayal was bad enough, but this was something else entirely. My anger reignited, sharper than before. I wasn't just dealing with a cheating spouse. I was dealing with a traitor masquerading as a long-lost friend. I called Lisa. She answered on the first ring, her voice shaky. Chris? Please, I need to talk to you. I didn't mean for it to happen, I swear. Can we just… Shut up, I snapped, cutting her off. I don't want your apologies. I want answers. About what? She asked, her voice trembling. About Ethan, I said, spitting the name like it was poison. Or should I say Evan Daniels? There was a beat of silence. Then, I heard her sharp intake of breath. You knew? I accused. I didn't think you'd find out, she stammered, her voice breaking. Did you think I'd just let it go? I barked. You thought you could sleep with someone who was practically my brother and I'd never notice? It's not what you think, she pleaded. He reached out to me first. He said he wanted to reconnect with you. But then we started talking and you what? I demanded. You thought it'd be a good idea to let him into your bed instead of bringing him back into my life? It wasn't like that, she cried. It started out innocent, I swear. I didn't know how to tell you without making it weird. And then you let him destroy our marriage, I finished for her. She fell silent, her sobs muffled on the other end of the line. Where is he now? I asked coldly. I don't know, she said. Liar, I hissed. You have one chance to tell me the truth, Lisa. Where is he? She broke down completely. He's staying at a hotel downtown, she confessed. Room 213 at the Mason Inn. Please, Chris, don't do anything stupid. Oh, I'm not the one who did something stupid, I replied, ending the call. The Mason Inn was an unassuming building nestled between office complexes, the kind of place frequented by businessmen and weekend travelers. I strode through the lobby, adrenaline surging as I made my way to room 213. I didn't knock. I didn't pause. I kicked the door open. Evan was sitting on the edge of the bed, shirtless, his face frozen in shock as I stepped inside. A half-empty bottle of whiskey sat on the nightstand, and the smell of betrayal hung heavy in the air. Chris, he stammered, standing up slowly. I didn't give him a chance to speak. My fist connected with his jaw, sending him sprawling back onto the bed. You thought you could do this to me? I roared, grabbing him by the collar and yanking him to his feet. You thought I wouldn't find out? Wait, he sputtered, blood dripping from his lip. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Like what? I spat. You slither into my life, seduce my wife, and destroy everything I built? I didn't mean to hurt you, he pleaded. Lisa, she came on to me first. Don't you dare try to pin this on her, I growled, shoving him against the wall. It's the truth, he cried. I didn't plan this, Chris, I swear. She said you were distant, that you didn't love her anymore. I wanted to help. You've done enough, I said, my voice low and dangerous. You're going to pack your things, leave this town, and never come near me or Lisa again. If you do, I'll destroy you. Evan nodded frantically, his eyes wide with fear. Okay, I'll go. As I stepped back, he slumped against the wall, shaking. This isn't over, I said, turning to leave. Not by a long shot. But little did I know, the biggest betrayal was still waiting to reveal itself. I drove home from the Mason Inn, the satisfaction of confronting Evan tempered by the nagging feeling that there was more to the story. Lisa's tears, her stumbling explanations, they didn't sit right with me. Evan's cowardly excuses only added fuel to the fire. Back at the house, Lisa was waiting for me, pacing nervously in the living room. The moment I stepped through the door, she rushed toward me, her face streaked with tears. Chris, she started, her voice breaking. I'm so sorry. Please, let's talk. I held up a hand to stop her. Save it, I said coldly. You've done enough damage for one lifetime. She froze, her expression crumbling. What did you do? I confronted him, I said simply. Evan's packing his things and leaving town. You won't see him again. Her face turned pale. Chris, you didn't. I didn't kill him, if that's what you're worried about. I snapped. Though he deserved it. She let out a shaky breath, but her relief only enraged me further. You care more about him than about what you've done to us, don't you? I said, my voice sharp. No, she cried. I care about you, Chris. I love you. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but I want to fix it. I laughed bitterly. Fix it? You think this is something you can fix? Please, she begged, her voice desperate. I'll do anything. Just give me a chance. I stared at her, weighing my next words. Part of me wanted to throw her out right then and there, but the other part, the part that needed answers, held me back. You want a chance? I said finally. Fine. Start by telling me the truth. I already have, she protested, tears streaming down her face. No, I said firmly. You've told me what you think I want to hear. Now, I want the full truth, Lisa. Every single thing. She hesitated, her lip trembling. Chris, Now, I demanded. Her shoulders sagged, and she sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. It wasn't just Evan, she admitted, her voice muffled. The room spun. I had expected lies, half-truths, but not this. How many? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. 2 others, she whispered. A hollow laugh escaped my lips. 2? My God, Lisa. Was our marriage a joke to you? No, she sobbed, looking up at me with red-rimmed eyes. I swear it wasn't. I don't even know why I did it. I felt lost, empty. It wasn't about you. It was about me. That's supposed to make it better? I snapped. She shook her head, her sobs racking her body. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. The next morning, I called Matt again. I need you to dig deeper, I said. There's more to this than just Evan. Chris, are you sure you want to keep going down this road? Matt asked cautiously. I don't have a choice, I replied. I need to know the full extent of her lies. Matt sighed. All right, give me a couple of days. 2 days later, Matt called back. Chris, you need to hear this in person, he said, his tone grave. When I arrived at his office, he had a file waiting for me, thicker than the first. This is worse than I thought, Matt said, sliding the folder across the desk. I opened it, bracing myself. The first few pages contained photos, Lisa with Evan, with a second man, and with a third. My stomach churned as I flipped through them, each image more damning than the last. But it wasn't just the photos. There were text messages, emails, even receipts from secret hotel rendezvous. And then, at the bottom of the pile, something that froze my blood. A bank statement. What's this? I asked, my voice tight. Lisa's been siphoning money from your joint account, Matt explained. It looks like she's been funding one of the guys she's seeing, paying his rent, buying him gifts. We traced it back to an account under his name. I stared at the statement, my hands shaking. She's been using my money to support him? Matt nodded grimly. And who is he? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Matt hesitated. His name is Sean. Sean? I repeated, the name unfamiliar. He's 24, Matt said. A bartender. Lisa's been seeing him for nearly a year. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. A year. An entire year of lies and deceit. What do you want to do, Chris? Matt asked gently. I clenched my fists, my anger burning hotter than ever. I want to burn her world to the ground. But I knew I had to tread carefully. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about making sure Lisa's betrayal had lasting consequences. And with the pieces I now had, I was ready to unleash the next stage of my plan. I sat in the dim light of my car outside the house, clutching the folder Matt had handed me. The weight of Lisa's betrayal felt suffocating, but the bank's statements were the final insult. She hadn't just cheated on me. She'd stolen from me, funded her twisted fantasies with money meant for us. But tonight, it was her turn to feel the sting of betrayal. I stepped inside, the house unnervingly quiet. Lisa was at the dining table, her face pale and drawn. She looked up as I entered, her eyes wide with apprehension. Chris, she said softly, standing. I've been waiting for you. Can we talk? Talk? I repeated, setting the folder down on the table. Sure, Lisa. Let's talk. Her gaze flickered to the folder, her hands fidgeting nervously. What's that? Evidence, I said, sitting across from her. Do you want to see what your lies look like on paper? She didn't respond, but her trembling hands betrayed her fear. I flipped open the folder, sliding the first few pages toward her. The photos, the receipts, the bank statements. She gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Chris, I can explain," she stammered, her voice cracking. "Explain?" I snapped. "Explain how you funneled money out of our account to support some bartender half your age? Or how you lied to my face while playing house with 3 different men?" Tears streamed down her face as she shook her head. "I was lost," she whispered. "I wasn't thinking straight." "You weren't thinking straight for a year?" I shot back. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she sobbed. "Please, Chris. I'll do anything to make this right." I leaned back in my chair, studying her. "Anything?" I asked, my voice cold. "Yes," she said desperately. "I'll do whatever it takes." For a moment, I let her think there was a sliver of hope. Then, I dropped the final piece on the table, a copy of her resignation letter. "What's this?" she asked, picking it up with trembling hands. "It's your resignation," I said evenly. "I've already spoken to your boss. He agreed that your behavior doesn't reflect well on the company, especially given your relationship with one of your subordinates." Her eyes widened in horror. You got me fired?" "No, Lisa," I said, my voice icy. "You got you fired." As her sobs filled the room, I stood and walked to the kitchen, pouring myself a glass of water. She followed me, her footsteps hesitant. "Chris, please," she pleaded. "We can fix this. I love you." I turned to face her, my expression unyielding. "You don't love me, Lisa. You love the idea of having me as a safety net while you indulge your fantasies. But that ends now." Her face crumpled, and for a moment, I almost felt pity. Almost. Then, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, frowning at the unfamiliar number. "Hello?" I answered. "Is this Chris Evans?" a voice asked, low and serious. "Yes." "Who's this?" "This is Detective Graham with the County Police Department," the voice said. "I'm calling regarding your wife, Lisa." My stomach dropped. "What about her?" "She's been the victim of identity fraud," he continued. "A significant amount of money was transferred from her personal account over the past year." I blinked, struggling to process his words. "What are you talking about?" "Lisa's the one who took money from me, not the other way around. Actually, Mr. Evans, the money in question was transferred into an account under your name," the detective said. "We've traced it back to you." My grip on the phone tightened. "That's impossible. Lisa filed a report earlier this week," he continued. "We'll need you to come down to the station for questioning." I hung up, my mind racing. Lisa stared at me, her tears momentarily forgotten. "Who was that?" she asked cautiously. "A detective," I said, my voice tight. Her brow furrowed. "Why would a detective be calling you?" "Apparently, someone filed a report accusing me of stealing from them," I said, my tone icy. Her eyes widened, and she took a step back. "Chris, I didn't. Didn't you?" I snapped, stepping closer. "After everything you've done, you're going to deny it?" She shook her head frantically. "I swear, Chris, I didn't report you." "I wouldn't." "Then how does a detective know about an account in my name?" I demanded. Her lips trembled, and she looked away. "I don't know," she whispered. I stared at her, the weight of her lies suffocating. "You know what? It doesn't matter. If this is your attempt to screw me over, it won't work." "It's not me," she cried. "Chris, you have to believe me." But I didn't. Not anymore. I left the house that night, the sound of Lisa's sobs echoing behind me. The twists and turns of her betrayal had left me reeling, but one thing was clear. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore. Someone had orchestrated a deeper game, a game I wasn't prepared to lose. And I'd be damned if I didn't find out who was pulling the strings. The detective's words haunted me as I drove aimlessly through the darkened streets. Lisa's betrayal was bad enough, but now I was caught in a labyrinth of lies that seemed to extend far beyond her. I ended up at Matt's office, needing answers. He opened the door in his pajamas, rubbing his eyes. "Chris, what's going on?" "It's late. I need you to pull up everything you have on Lisa again," I said, barging in. "There's something we missed." Matt frowned but didn't argue. He pulled up his files and started scrolling through them. What are we looking for? Anything tying her to financial transactions in my name, I said. After a few minutes, Matt froze. Wait, look at this, he said, pointing to his screen. It was a record of bank transfers from Lisa's personal account. The recipient? Not one of her lovers, but an offshore account linked to my name. What the hell? I muttered, leaning closer. There's more, Matt said, clicking through emails Lisa had sent from a private account. Each message referenced plans to move money discreetly and cover her tracks. But the most damning email stopped me cold. Everything is in place. By the time Chris realizes what's happened, the money will be untraceable. He'll take the fall and I'll walk away clean. The recipient? Evan. Rage bubbled inside me, but a bitter laugh escaped my lips. She wasn't just cheating, I said, shaking my head. She was framing me. Matt sat back, stunned. Chris, this is next-level betrayal. Are you sure she's capable of this? Matt, she siphoned money out of our accounts for years and lied to my face every day. Of course she's capable. I knew what I had to do. The next morning, I returned home. Lisa was sitting at the dining table, her eyes bloodshot and her hands clutching a mug of coffee. She looked up as I entered, hope flickering in her gaze. Chris, she started, her voice trembling. I'm glad you're back. Can we? Save it. I interrupted, dropping a stack of printed emails on the table. Care to explain this? She glanced at the pages, her face draining of color. Where did you get these? Does it matter? I asked coldly. What matters is that I know everything now. The offshore account, the emails, your little plan to pin this on me. It's over, Lisa. Her hands trembled as she reached for the papers. Chris, I didn't. Don't you dare lie to me. I snapped, slamming my fist on the table. You were going to destroy me, weren't you? Take everything and leave me with nothing. Her tears started again, but they no longer moved me. It wasn't like that, she whispered. Then what was it? I demanded. She looked away, her voice barely audible. I was scared. Scared of what? I asked, my anger boiling over. Of being stuck, she admitted. Of losing control. Evan, he promised me freedom. He said I deserved more, that you were holding me back. I let out a bitter laugh. Freedom? From what? A stable life? A husband who loved you? She didn't answer, her silence confirming what I already knew. Here's what's going to happen, I said, leaning closer. I've already handed everything to my lawyer. The divorce will proceed, and I'll make sure you walk away with nothing. You'll explain your little financial scheme to the police and clear my name, or I'll make sure Evan goes down with you. Her head snapped up, panic flashing in her eyes. Chris, please. This isn't a negotiation, I said sharply. It's your only option. 2 weeks later, Lisa signed the divorce papers and confessed everything to the authorities. Her scheme unraveled, and Evan was arrested for his role in the fraud. The judge granted me full custody of our assets, and I walked away from the marriage with my name cleared and my dignity intact. As for Lisa, she moved out of the house and into obscurity, her reputation in tatters. I heard rumors that she tried reaching out to old friends for support, but no one wanted to be associated with her. Months passed, and the wounds began to heal. I moved into a new apartment, started therapy, and focused on rebuilding my life. The pain of Lisa's betrayal lingered, but it no longer consumed me. One evening, as I sat on my balcony watching the sunset, my phone buzzed with a text from Matt. Hey, just wanted to let you know Evan took a plea deal. He's facing 10 years. Justice served. I smiled, a sense of closure washing over me. Lisa and Evan had thought they could ruin me, but they underestimated one thing, my resilience. In the end, I didn't just survive their betrayal. I thrived in spite of it. And that was the best revenge of all.